Hello, and welcome back to the TheRoughMixPodcast, episode 14. That's your host, Esteban Trunks. We got Eli, a.k.a. Hooligan Beats, and we got Vic, and we got Jordan, Coach Koopa. So today's video, we're going to be discussing some more engineering side since we are all engineers. And we're trying to pretty much give tips on how to become a better engineer and give some tips from when we first started this podcast, like 8 months ago, to now when we're almost a year in and recording and stuff and had a ton of sessions now. So we're going to go ahead and give our best tips for beginning engineers. And even if you're like intermediate engineer and you feel like you kind of got the skill and hang of like a few ways of how to record in Pro Tools or FL, anything, any DAW really. But so I say the first few things that we'll give, each of us will go around and give a few tips on how we think we can help each other, how we can help you guys watching the videos, and also to help out those who are intermediate and trying to become like more of an advanced engineer. But also to start off, we're not professionals. We just do this because we're trying to give you guys some tips because there are some people out there who are struggling a bit. And a good example is Jordan. I'm not trying to call out Jordan saying he's like struggling, but he's mostly, a producer first, but he's trying to be an engineer also. And you guys will all see his process of becoming, engineer. He said before that he's trying to be like more of a tracking engineer. So he'll make beats and then also track out an artist that he can at like a studio or something like that, or here at the house. So I think the first few tips that I could give for a beginning engineer, I'll start off with a beginning engineer tip and then more of an intermediate to give a more advanced tips. But beginner tip that I could give for recording and giving out, I guess for recording first. The first thing is obviously, I think for me, I think the best thing is having like punch. I think punch record is a pretty good like beginner tip. You just have to hit 3 and you already start recording. You'll save yourself so much time instead of having to go with your mouse, go scroll up and then hit the record button and then go back and pause it. Obviously your hotkeys I think is pretty good one for beginners. Is learn all your hotkeys, but for the first one, learn obviously play and stop with the space bar and then 3 to record. And I think that's also really good. Another one is also like loop recording. If some guy's doing like a few takes, loop record is a good one to do. That's a good one for recording. And for another thing I'm gonna give for TheRoughMix is for a beginner tip is leveling. First thing you want to do for TheRoughMix is always level. I think that's like the easiest thing to do is just leveling out the beat. If you have trackouts, level out each instrument if they're not already leveled out by the producer. Don't ever try to change the sound of the beat because that's what the artist likes, the beat of how it is, not because he's trying to change the beat. Usually, most of the time. So like, don't really try to change the sound of a beat. Don't try to like replace the kick with one of your kicks or anything like that. You'll get in a lot of trouble with like producers and stuff like that because they'll be like, "Yo, like that's not my kick. Like I didn't put that. Like that's not the beat I made." That's one I can give for the rough mixes is make sure you're not changing the sound of the beat. And then more for the intermediate people who are trying to become more advanced, I say for recording is to record as in like with I think a more advanced one is like the playlisting when you record. That's a good one also to help out like people who are trying to a lot of people take like 20, 50 takes or something. You don't want to go back and record and then go back to the same spot. And so if you first of all, you got to learn punch. So punch is good. Then you want to open up the playlist underneath. It's going to say waveform and then it'll say playlist. You click on playlist and then that way when the artist wants to do hey, I want to do 10 takes. And then out of those 10 takes, I'll choose which one I like. So then you have a playlist and what you'll do is record. After he's done recording, you just hold control to make sure it stays on grid and it doesn't move the spot. You hold control and then you'll drag the clip down into another playlist. And then that makes then you could just record over and over again and you'll just keep it on different playlists. And then that way you could just solo out which one he recorded and tell him yo, is this which one do you want to keep and stuff like that. So I think that's a good one for intermediates. That's just a tip that I'm giving. And then we'll move on to Eli since he's on my left.
Sorry, I forgot I had to unmute. Yeah, I'll go. I guess I'll talk about engineering too. Because I think, I was going to say at the school, I don't know which one of us, I think Vic's been working on all this the longest out of all of us for sure. But I think when I first started doing sessions and stuff, and I was mostly tracking, I was getting some mixing engineer stuff. If it was with my artist who I was working with, I was mixing a lot of his stuff, but it was mostly tracking. And then I would have people help me and stuff because I didn't know all the plugins or I didn't know what to do or how to move stuff around right. I think the best thing to do when you first start engineering, if you're using Pro Tools or Logic, is, like I someone said, find out the hotkeys, because everything is about time management. If you have a 2-hour session and someone wants to record 2 songs, for one, that's not really going to happen most of the time unless they're in there and out of there. They have it written, they have the beat done, they know exactly what they want to do. They've had this practice for weeks, which I've had people do that, and I really like those people. But a lot of the time, what's going to happen is you're going to do one song for 2 hours or 3 hours or an hour and 20 minutes or whatever it may be. If you're in a studio setup that's not at home, a professional studio setup, get there a little bit early and make sure the board works, because I cannot tell you how many times I've been in a session and I've had to call one of these people up, mostly Esteban and Vic, since they knew the boards, not to exclude Jordan, but he was on his producer shit in the beginning. I'd call them up and be like, yo, blah, blah, blah room isn't working. I did everything. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Oh, well, did you go over and like press this one random key that no one knows to press because this board has like a weird button on it? Stuff like that. Know your rooms, know your boards, know what mic pre's don't work. This is all analog speaking, I guess. If we're going more like in the box, just like get familiarized with like the really basic stuff. Like we talk about plugins all the time. We talk about like getting like this and like this is going to help you, but like understand EQ, understand compression, use the Dyne 3 dynamic stuff, use like all the stuff that you don't want to use, because once you know how to use those, everything else is going to be relative. Find out your plugins, find out how to like control your system, your DAW, understand your hotkeys, and just like kind of find what works for you. Once you have your area mastered, then you can help people in theirs. Like if you have an artist who's maybe struggling or hasn't recorded like a whole lot, like I've had people where it's their first session too, and I'm like, yo, like it's all good. Like I'm used to like doing 20 takes for one part because that's just what happens. That's how this works. Don't worry so much about the artist. Sometimes it's good if you can work with people who have maybe recorded before. If you know anybody like that, or like you have friends who've recorded before and they understand the recording process, so you can kind of focus on yourself at the beginning and understanding the board and the DAW, like I was saying. I think that's a good thing. Or even just doing like practice sessions, like call over a friend who wants to like record and maybe isn't fully committed, or maybe wants to do it for fun, or like a side like hustle. Like bring them over and just like make a bunch of songs and just a bunch of random songs, or work on one song for a really long time and like understand how to use your computer and your board and all that stuff. So yeah, just get familiar, understand what you need to do, and like just have everything under control. Because when you have your area under control, like I was saying, like you can focus on other stuff. If something else goes wrong, you don't have to worry about like something on your end falling apart too, because you know that you got it all there. So yeah, I think just get yourself familiarized with your board, with the DAW, whatever you're using, your mic. Like I've had to like mess with this mic a few times and like be like, oh, I actually like how it faces like this way in certain sessions, or you know, whatever it may be. So get familiar.
Yeah, I think that's really good to like I think the best thing you were saying is like, especially if you're just starting out being an engineer, get like one of your friends from high school or, you know, like middle school or college or something that like, just like, if you actually want to take this serious, you're going to have to actually start recording people, you know, whether that be yourself, whether that be someone who he's like, hey, you know what, I've always wanted to try to be a rapper or a singer or an artist of some sort. Like start recording them. And then like, that's how you'll get practice, you know?
Oh yeah. That's actually a good point right there. Recording yourself. When we first started going to SAE, I would go home every day after class when no one was here, when no one was here at my house, and I would just like pull up whatever beat I was making at school that day or the night before and rap on it and like practice. Like, okay, this is how you do this. This is how you do this. This is where I'm gonna cut. Like learning hotkeys, like experimenting. And that was, I think, a really beneficial time, because that was before I was even recording like my current artists and stuff. So then when I got to them, even though I wasn't where I am now, of course, or any of us are, or like what I want to be, I wasn't sitting there like, oh, I think I know how to do this. I think I know how to do this. It was just like, yep, I got this. And then afterwards I could go home and kind of freak out that I didn't know how to like EQ, you know, like, or get what, you know, whatever it might be. But yeah, record yourself, record your friends who aren't going to be like harsh on you or be paying you and worrying about studio time. Yeah, just work. just for a while, get your hours in. 10,000 hours, if you haven't heard that, get your hours in. It doesn't have to be 10,000, of course, but that is kind of a benchmark or a line that people set. Get your hours in. Don't just expect this to work off the bat, because it doesn't.
Yeah. So I think that for sure, if you're just starting out and you haven't even recorded anybody and you want to try to be a better engineer, obviously start recording people, and that's how you'll start to get the work in and the time in to become a better engineer. And that's a good tip. It's just obviously working. All of this all the tips we're saying is all going to be over time. It's not going to just happen after one day, after one session. It's all going to be multiple thousands of hours. Then you'll be a beast. You'll be a Chris Lord LG or something. You'll be a tank. So with that being said, let's give my dog Vic the mic now.
All right. All right. So, for starters, sorry about changing my background so much. I had to throw up. That's my Pro Tool session right there. Yo, that's kind of sick though. Anyways, so like one thing I would say, like one of the main things is like you have to not be like nervous. Because like recently I've been doing a lot more sessions. Like we've all been doing like a lot more sessions recently. And it's like one of the things, like you can't be nervous because like when the artist comes over, like they see you as like the person who is like calling all the shots. He's like, he's calling everything. He's making it all work smooth. And it's like if he sees that you're nervous, it's like, it's like going into war and like your leader is like scared. It's like, how are you gonna feel? Like you're gonna be scared too. But if your leader's all confident, it's like we got this, and you're gonna be like, maybe we do got this. So that's one thing. Another thing is like the shortcuts. Like those are essential. And like if you know the shortcuts, like you, besides it looking hella sick and like you feeling like a beast, it really is like so much faster. Like just for example, if you want to shorten up a clip, if you have to do that with 3 clips in a row, that's going to take you, let's just say 15 seconds. But if you know the shortcuts, you could do that in like 2 seconds. Cut all the clips. It's short amount of time. What people are paying for pseudo time, that all adds up. Like you need as much time as you can to mix a song, because no matter what they leave with that day, your name is on that, and that's what's going out. So it's like learn those shortcuts. Like the main one is like record, like the cut and the trim one. Just like the simple shit. It's like all the simple shortcuts. And then like for us, like, because we're all still learning, all of us still learning, you're always going to still learn. No one's ever like a pro. Even Dave and Sato, all the gods, they are still learning too. No one's ever like full. And if someone's like, oh, I know that already. If anyone's like, oh, I know that already, they're full, like, they're full of shit. I'm sorry. Because like people who don't want to listen to advice or want to like try and listen to new things or like think they're know-it-all are people who don't learn new things ever. That being said, good things to watch is like Pensato's Place. We've all watched that. Like that's a show on YouTube where like this engineer, very famous, Dave Pensato, and his manager, they interview other engineers. Like they give out all the sauce and the tips. Like you hear all this stuff, and like the way people get better in engineering is through mistakes. The more mistakes you make, the more you learn. And like through time, that's how you get better. But if you're learning all the tips and all the sauce from other people from their mistakes, you don't have to make that mistake to learn that tip. They're giving it all to you. So it's like, and he has hundreds of episodes. And then there's another guy, Alex Tomei. Everyone, engineers probably now knows him. He's Young Thug's engineer, also a really good engineer. He has another podcast called This Sounds Better. And like, they're beasts. They're like, it's almost like us, but they're all Grammy Award winners who are like, know their stuff, So it's cool, but they're if you're gonna listen to that, it's much more technical. Like you kind of have to know already a little bit because they're not sugarcoating it or like they're it's sometimes for us it's a little confusing too. I have to like re-listen or something.
We're them before the come up.
What?
We're them before the come up.
Yeah, honestly. And then like oh fuck, what's his name? Wavy Wayne, I think that's his name. Wavy Wayne. Yeah, he's a beast. He is a beast. On YouTube, look him up. He gives like some saucy tutorials. One of the main ones I'm gonna throw out there for you guys to watch is the tempo one. The way he finds the tempo saves so much time. Like so much time. You should like all look at that guy. Wavy Wayne, Dave Pensado, this sounds better. All the mix with the masters, like all mixing videos, like watch them. Because even if you don't think you're learning, there's going to be something on there that you don't know that they're going to tell you. So, yeah.
All right. Well, what Vic was saying also that what's up?
Sorry, I just wanted to butt in on that real quick because it is true. Every time I watch a video, even if it's like a 25-minute video and I'm like sitting there the whole time like, oh, I've heard this before, I've seen this plugin before. There's one thing they do in every video almost every time, and I'm like, well, I've never seen that before. Or like, oh, I can add that onto something I already know. Like my just for an example, my reverb chain or reverb like send what used to be reverb, and it was one plugin. Now my reverb send has like 5 or 6 plugins every time because all these videos adding up all these things. Not every time, but if I want to like make a exciting reverb or do something different, like all of these videos add up and you just pull different parts from different videos and put it in there. And that's like getting, like we said, intermediate or like a little bit farther down the line. But watch these videos and you'll slowly start to build stuff up and you'll slowly start to realize like all these things put together are really what makes the mix and all your stuff.
Also, I was going to add one more thing too. Now you made me remember is like when you're watching videos and stuff like that, if you see the EQ curve, don't copy the exact settings of what you see. Like so many people do that, and it's like it doesn't work. It's okay. This is how I compare it. This is how I'm gonna compare it. If you're an artist, you're not gonna draw the same photo of Picasso just because it's Picasso. You draw the same photo, it's fire, but it's like it's not yours. It's everyone knows the original is from Picasso. But if you're an artist, you're gonna learn his techniques. You're gonna learn his style. You're gonna maybe understand why he did it this way, and it's gonna maybe influence you. But don't copy it. That goes for this. Don't copy everything you see. It's not gonna all work the same. Like in the end, everyone says this though. But like
every episode, just game. Just this is game right here. He just drops it every episode.
I know that's the second analogy he's done today in less than 10 minutes. He just full of analogies. That's all it is for him. But I was also going to say the YouTube videos, like obviously that's where or some people may be thinking like, yo, like why am I watching you guys if I should be watching all the guys you be watching? Well, all of us watch all of them, so then now it's like kind of like an all in one. If you kind of just go to I don't know, explain it. Yeah, it's kind of like all in one, and we're obviously like Vic was saying like about Alex DeMay and all them, Grammy Award winners. So we're kind of like, you have to watch episode 1 of the podcast to know what we are pretty much. So I'm not like pretty much is like, it's our journey of us being the Rough Mix to then being like the master or something. I don't know. It's something corny like that, but you check out episode 1. I'll make sure to put that in one of the cards, here or something, let you guys watch that out. But so we're going to go ahead and give the mic to Jordan. Now, just to let everybody know, Jordan is a producer first. He may not be a real, like, he's had a few engineering stuff right that he's done. I'm going to go and let him talk. I'm not going to bring him down. Let me let Jordan talk.
Producer first, 5 second.
Engineer third.
I don't have anything to say. No, I'm kidding. I don't know shit about engineering. That's facts, though. Like, I've only tracked out a person probably like 3 or 4 times. And then, so, I don't know. I guess I'll just say, like, tips if you're starting to engineer, like, what I want to do, like, my goals. All right, so, like, by the end of this year, I'm trying to get a MacBook in Pro Tools and be able to start recording. I already have a condenser mic, and so I don't really have to worry about that right now. But yeah, so once I start recording by the end of the year and like actually start messing with people, my main focus still is going to be like on producing, but really like what I want to learn like in stone that I'll probably be practicing like every single day if I can is learning how to track people out, learning how to do that very fast. And also learning how to do very basic mixes, something that I could like always come back to later, but the artist is like okay with it on the spot, But But yeah, I mean, I really don't have much. It's a lot of learning for me. Like, it's a lot of learning. I don't know. I don't got too much to really say about mixing.
What else? What else?
Other than like,
What's up? Other than what?
Other than like mixing beats, but that's not like vocals or anything, you know.
Oh, well, mixing beats is still part of engineering, but it's not as like a song, engineered song, but it's still part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
But Vic, what are you gonna say?
I was gonna say something, but you kind of just said. I was saying mixing still counts.
Yeah,
like some people like just mix beats, like EDM producers and stuff like that. Like that's their whole thing is like mixing beats. Like that's what makes them have their sauce and stuff.
Well, and having a good mix on the beat for one. This is just a tip for like for producers. I'm just going to throw a few things out there real quick. Leveling your beat is fine when you're sending it out, especially if you know that someone's going to use it, if someone has bought it or if someone hits you up for it, or if you're working with like an artist, like how Jordan has artists that he works with, like, and they mostly work with him, or not mostly work with him, but are working with him and they have an understanding of what it is going to be. Don't pre-limit your beats. I cannot explain or I cannot like emphasize how frustrating it is when I get a beat and it's a brick and I can't do anything to it. We have a actually, all right, I'm not even going to get into what's going on right now, but there's been multiple times where beats have came in either from YouTube or whatever it may be. I've even had beats that I've pulled up into Pro Tools that we went to record on just for fun, and I was like, oh my god, like it's squared off. Like I have to like go back and do something to it. Don't pre-limit, and if you're going to level, just look at your level and make sure you're not clipping every time something hits. If you clip on some things, okay, it is what it is, like a kick. And if you're clipping on purpose, or if it's like harmonic distortion, or just you want it to distort a little bit, that's fine. Don't pre-limit, and don't worry about having it hit so hard that you have to remember, and this was a problem for me in the beginning, you have to remember that there's going to be a voice on top of this beat as well, if that's your end goal. So remember that there's going to be a voice, you got to have space for it, and you just want everything to work together. The beat is not supposed to take over the song. The voice isn't supposed to take over the song. They're supposed to work together. So just remember that. That's just a little tip for producers, especially if you know who you're sending it out to. It's even better if you know who's going to engineer it, all that stuff. But, you know, that's farther down the line. But yeah.
What I was going to say is that I've actually said in a previous episode that I'll try to find, not that we have that many episodes, but I'll find it. Basically, in one of the episodes that I said, Jesus Christ. But one of the episodes that I said, okay, so there's a few exceptions that I do about the limiting. Is you could limit your beat when you're putting it to YouTube, because obviously everybody wants to hear, like, that's the first thing they hear. You know, they hear beats. If they want to download your beat on YouTube, they want to hear it loud. I guess if that makes any sense. So I don't really master my beats on YouTube. I just pretty much limit them and bring them to like radio ready level, you know, type thing, like with just loudness, not really mastering, like, because that's what the whole point of the beat is, to be mastered. You know, I'm not going to give a mastered version of my beat and then have someone, I don't know, I guess that's just the way I think about it. But I any beat that, all my beats that I export are never limited. They're always like unleveled, not you know, I don't put like sound goodizer on C and put it all the way up. You know, I'm not doing that to my beats. You know, I just leave it alone on the master pretty much. But as far as putting it on YouTube, I do think, you know, limiting is fine just to bring it up to that sound, to that radio ready level. I think that's good. That's okay, at least on YouTube. But when you're sending it out to an artist, don't send it clipping. Go ahead, Vic.
I was gonna say too, another thing, like for the engineering, I was gonna say like a huge thing is like gain staging. Like I know a lot of people say that, but like when I first started, like every time it would like, you would always start like with everything on like unison or like 0, right? Like everyone does. But now it's like I always start with it lower, because when you're mixing it low and everything, it's easier to like get everything in the right mix. Because like think about it like this, there's like a ceiling, there's a limit to where you can. So if you start everything right here, you're just pushing everything towards that wall. So if you want something louder and louder, you're just pushing towards the wall. But if you start low, it gives you a lot more headroom to find your mix. And then you raise everything up together when you're done. And then the whole like loudness and all that, that's really mastering engineer stuff. But, you know, everyone does it nowadays. All engineers, you do some pre-mastering and stuff. Like that's a huge thing. Like it's also on like FL. I do this for the beats too. Whatever I'm doing my beats, I'll do it all unison, and then when I'm gonna mix it, I'll highlight everything and I'll drag it all down. Like I'll literally drag it down, and then I'll start with my 808, and then I bring in my kick, then I do my snares, then my hi-hats and all that shit. Then I'll put my effects, then I'll do the panning. That's how like I'll start it. And then the final thing is like if I'm gonna put it on YouTube or if it's putting like on BeatStars or something, and I want it like hell loud and mastered and everything, I am gonna throw a limiter on there just because like if it's on BeatStars or something like that and it's not loud, even though it's mixed well, if someone's just gonna be like, oh dude, that's just not even loud. That's ass. Next, I'm just gonna change it. So yeah, that's all I had to add.
A tip I could give for people who maybe you just want to be a producer, and just want to straight sell beats online. I think a good plugin to invest in. There's probably other ones for free maybe, but one that I know of that works like pretty reliable and stuff like that for metering is to use Waves LM, Waves Loudness Metering, which is WLM. So Waves Loudness Metering Plus, and that one helps you out with getting radio ready songs at the. Go ahead, Vic. Cut me off. Go ahead.
All right, I'm all right. I was gonna say one. I know one too. It's called Ulean Loudness Meter, and it's free, and it does the LUFS, and it does dynamic range LUFS, and it's free. There is like a pro version, but it's free. And like I compared that one with the WLM meter, and it's like literally almost exactly the same. The other one has more of a graph. You can see all the other stuff. But the Waves one is fire, but you do have to pay for that one. This other one is free. Just throwing that out there. Only one I know that's free.
That's good. That's good. I didn't even know about that one. You never told me about it. Thank you for giving out the sauce to me. Someone that you talk to all the time. I don't even get any free sauce. That's good. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about giving me anything. But I think all these tips that we've been giving out, I think there's obviously way more stuff that we could talk about. Like there's also stuff that we've touched on like on previous episodes, like the mixing a beat. I think mixing a beat definitely goes along with how to become a better engineer, because if you're an engineer and you're getting track outs, you're gonna want to learn how to mix a beat also, and there's different ways, there's different techniques that we give to mixing a beat versus mixing vocals and stuff. So we only got a few minutes left here, but I'd say let's give a few plugins that we use for like maybe the beat, like two things we put on the beat. Like let's just say a 2-track. Let's say 2-track. Let's not go out loud and say stems. Let's just say someone has a 2-track. If no one knows what a 2-track is, it's basically a stereo file of the beat that you're getting. So it's 2-track. They call it because it's stereo left and right, and it's 2 tracks technically. So that's why it's called 2-track. So I'll go ahead and start. The first thing I do on my beat, that I always do, is turn it down. I'll put a trim plug in, or like I'll just clip gain it down like 6 to 8 dB. That's just one tip I can give everybody, is turn it down. Like the same thing Vic was saying about the gain staging, making sure that we have enough room to like have enough not noise floor. Is it noise? It might be noise floor. That's what I'm thinking about. Give yourself enough headroom. That's what I'm trying to say. So turn on the beat and then EQ the beat. So if there's any instruments that are interfering with the voice, go ahead and take those frequencies out. Don't destroy the EQ and turn it down like 24 dB or something if you have like the Fab Filter EQ, but just turn it down. So usually a lot of times the only place I turn it down is like the snare area and like pretty much the mid range. So I turn that down. I'll use an EQ for that. And then I'll use a
what EQ though? It's a plug, like what plugin?
I'll use there you're right. We're talking about plugins. So I turn on the beat, I just put the stock trim one from Pro Tools. And then to turn down to the EQ, I'll just use. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of times I use the stock EQ from Pro Tools. Sometimes I use the F6. I'll use F6 EQ, and that's all I do for the beat, pretty much. And I do a few more stuff, but I'm not gonna tell you. So that's pretty much it. And then for the vocals, first thing I do is remove the mud. Then I would like to use like a 3A on a CLA 3A on rap vocals and stuff like that. You know what? EQ to remove mud. That's pretty much it. And then the rest, and de-esser, and the rest you'll learn later. But that's what I do first. I'll give Vic and Eli some time.
All right, I'll go hella fast. So, Laura, real quick, there's going to be a lot more in-depth videos of what we're talking about now, just saying. And also, if you're watching this, you could write in the comments or something, or hit us on Instagram or something specific you want us to talk about. But anyways, so for the beat, the thing I always put on there is the NLS bus. Shout out Esteban, you told me about that. I throw that on there, and I use that as a trim tool, and then I throw some drive on there to add some harmonics on whatever interface or like multi. You'll see if you have the plugin. You'll see you can pick between the need, the EMI, and the SSL. I always throw that on there, and then like one plugin that I always throw on the vocals every single time, no matter what. I always throw it on there. It's the 1176 from UA. I always throw that on there, and then I usually follow that with the LA2A and a lot more stuff. There's a lot more, but I'll just throw those on there. You probably see those on my screen too, like right there.
All right. This is actually for the beat. This all this I can't even lie. All this has been sauce that has been given to me over time, over the last like year to 2 years. But you know, you mess with it, you make your own. I make my own presets, and like we say, every single mix is different. So I'm not turning the same things up or taking the same things out, whatever it may be. For the beat, this one's from Vic. I use Air Stereo Width. I'm not going to give out the sauce of how to use that, but learn how to use that, especially with beats, and especially if you want, you can even use it on, I've used it on vocals, I've used it on backing, like harmonics and stuff, and you turn up the width. We're like Vic said, we're going to get into it later. That and the pull tech, the EQ, the EQ, what is it, the 1 PA or the P? I always forget how to say them. I'm so bad with the numbers and stuff.
The one without the mid range. I don't know the name of it either.
I use the mid range one. I use the one. So this is why I use the mid range one. I use the EQ1 Pro, the P1. I think it's the P1 or something like that. But anyways, it's the Pultec Pro. I use it so, like S1 was saying, I take out a little bit of mid range, a little bit of 3K, and I create a dip right there. I use the mid range one because it has a dip. It has a dip knob. You can boost and boost and cut. Anyways, use the Pultec. Everyone knows about it, of course. If you're engineering, of course, all the people who are ahead of us or at the same level as us know about it. But that's what I use on the beat. For vocals, like we said, we're not going into it, but one thing that I've put on since the beginning, and this is my own stuff, is what do I want to put on this? I use the doubler a lot. I have a lot of.
I thought you were going to say center.
No, because center I haven't used since the beginning. Center I didn't get that long ago. I use the doubler, and the EQ that I always have on every single one is the SSL EQ. I don't use the SSL channel because I use different compressors and stuff like that. But the SSL EQ I like because it's not too harsh. Even with adding frequencies, like adding like high end like 10 or 12K, you don't get too much. It doesn't like it's not the brightest EQ, but it doesn't like overwhelm the rest of the mix. Like I can turn it up like 5 dBs sometimes on 10K, and it doesn't feel like it's like taking over the rest of the vocal. That's not the same sometimes with like API stuff, although I really love the 560B. That's another thing from Vic. But again, that's later that we're going to get into this. We do not have much time left. I'm going to let Esteban finish this up. Thank you guys. Here you go.
Yeah. All right. I just want to say thank you for everybody watching this video. Also, all our Instagram social medias are going to be in the description. If you want any questions to be answered, hit us up on any of our social medias or comment down below the video. But this has been the Rough Mix Podcast signing out. Peace.